Hey everyone, I'm Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, Moraug, Fury of Akoum.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks for watching us here on YouTube. It's the Commander's Brew, and we're about to get into this week's deck tech. If you like what we're doing here, of course, just hit and subscribe helps us out a lot. Also, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/commandersbrew, where you can donate directly and help us make these decks because our Discord members get to brew these with us. So it's a lot of fun in there. Other perks as well. Check it out, patreon.com/commandersbrew. But without further ado, we are going to get into this week's deck tech.
Okay, so from the new set, could not help but notice there's a cool new mono red commander, Moraug, Fury of Akoum. Moraug is 4 red, legendary minotaur warrior, 6/6. 6/6 for 6, that seems about right. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it's attacked this turn, but he's got a landfall trigger each time you play it. Every time a land enters the battlefield, if it's your main phase. That's a key clause. As long as it's your main phase, there is an additional combat phase after this phase, and at the beginning of that combat, the additional one, untap all creatures you control. Has to be your main phase, so before we go too deep, the Sword of the Animus does not work because that brings in a land while you're attacking. That's in your combat phase. You can't loop infinite attack steps that way. Another rule thing I want to clear is if you create a creature while you're attacking, you know, some creatures when they attack, they create creatures that are little tokens that are tapped and attacking. Mm-hmm. Moraug didn't see those attack. Those don't get +1/+0.
Oh.
If you do an additional combat and those tokens untap for another combat phase, they have to have haste somehow. Like the regular creatures are still prone. Like they still need to have haste to be able to attack that turn as usual.
I have an... Oh, you have another one I think you're about to say, but...
Yes.
Yeah. It's probably the same one. This is the one that I think a lot of content creators have talked about because it comes up on Arena a lot.
It does.
Yeah.
If you play your land in your first main phase, if you have a single land drop for the turn and you play it in your first main phase, you will get an additional combat after your first main phase. So you will get your additional combat, then your regular combat. You don't get a free untap on your regular combat, so your creatures presumably are already untapped. Mm-hmm. They get to untap and get that extra combat. So you've kind of wasted that combat step, unless you have Vigilance, I suppose. But remember to play your lands in future main phases. That's key.
Yeah, so it's like the easiest way to think about that is the untap comes after, rather than before, which is what you normally think is like when you get it. It's like untap, go. It's kind of like you have to do your attack first, then your untap comes because you played your extra land. It's weird. It's definitely bizarre the way they did it. Like they could have made it so that it works either way, I think. But anyways.
If you do put out multiple lands, you don't get extra main phases. All the combat steps are just back to back to back to back, and you untap at the beginning of each additional one.
Right. Yeah. So you definitely always should do the attack first and then play it. That's right. That's the way you do it, right?
Yeah, attack first, then play your land.
First. Yeah, so go to combat first. Always play the lands in the second main phase then.
I mean, there's a sneaky move to, like, you could even play Moraug in your second main phase and then play a land and get an extra combat step. Oh. Moraug might not be able to participate, but you can still do that. In fact, that's kind of what we're working on in this week's deck tech. Okay. So this particular spin, obviously, we're going to take a little bit of a budget angle on this one. Obviously, you could spend hundreds more dollars to get more efficient land drops, lands for free, that sort of thing. That's where the real money and magic comes from, is that kind of stuff.
Right.
But outside of that, and so we're going to work on being able to attack multiple times with a fairly robust team already on the battlefield. And hopefully we can cast Moraug and get a land or two triggers in there, a couple landfall triggers, and just overwhelm one or more opponent right then and there. kills out of nowhere. That's what we're going for.
Okay, sweet.
Great. So shall we set the scene? We're gonna need to know. We're gonna talk about a couple of the ways we're gonna trigger these landfall triggers to get those extra combat steps. So obviously lands are an easy way to do that. A lot of lands come with their own way to get extra landfall triggers. The slow fetches, for example, Mountain Valley. It's like a fetch, but it enters tapped. You don't have to pay a life, but you have to wait until next turn to do it. But next turn, you can tap, sacrifice Mountain Valley, or there's a black-red one. Those are the only two slow fetches that include red. And you get to search for a mountain or a forest, but it doesn't actually have red in the identity. It doesn't actually have green or red in the identity, but it lets you search for a mountain or a forest. So we're going to search for a mountain every time.
Right. Nice.
Obviously, Evolving Wilds is also this. It's just the cheaper version. It's like a kind of a worse version of those. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you're going to be doing this, if you're going to wait until you cast Moraug, like wait until these lands are able to be cracked, you're basically giving up. You're kind of letting Moraug cost one more. That's kind of the way you're looking at this. Yeah. So if you're doing that, there's a few other ways to do that. Can you guess what those are, Andy?
I bet you one of them is Traveler's Amulet.
Yes.
Yeah. Single mana for the artifact. That's pay one. Sack it, search your library for basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library.
Right. Wanderer's Twig is functionally the same.
Right.
And so that's kind of like getting a land to your hand is almost as good. In testing this deck, I found out that you'd kind of ramp up to Moraug, and a lot of times you'd be like, okay, I have the ability to cast Moraug, but I don't have another land in my hand. I've been using them. I've been playing them as I've been getting them. Yeah. So things like Wanderer's Twig, things like Traveler's Amulet, those are a great way to get an extra land. And maybe my favorite extra land, is Renegade Map. It's a single mana for an artifact. It enters the battlefield tapped, but it basically acts like a basic mountain fetch artifact from that point on. You don't have to pay any mana. That's the key. You can play Moraug with your 6th land and then tap Renegade Map and then put another mountain in your hand. So if you have another mountain, if you have another land drop, you can do it then. This will come up if we use like Artifact Ramp maybe to get to 6. We can just cast Moraug on the following turn, crack Renegade Map, play our 6th or whatever land we're up to, get those extra combat steps.
Mm-hmm, nice.
Ooh, and this is a good one too.
Oh yeah. Okay. Colony Gem. 4 mana for the artifact that says when it enters the battlefield, you return 2 lands you control to their owner's hand, and then you can pay 2. Then you can tap it and add 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool. Great for a landfall deck.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't slow you down. Like it just kind of like, I mean, it just puts more lands in your hand. You're making more land drops, so it just basically is a way to ensure you keep hitting land drops.
Yeah, which is, it's very interesting because usually in landfall style decks, you at least ones with green in them, although I guess this one only has red. So green, you usually lean away from the artifact ramp. But even in a green deck, this one would be good. So this is obviously we're just dealing with mono red here, but Colony Gem does the trick. It's great. Ramps you plus gives you landfall. It's great.
So there's some of the ways we're going to do this. I'm not talking about the most expensive ways to do that. We'll do that in the budget report. But I think that's kind of the loose what you need to know. So maybe we should get to some neat moves.
Working on a
neat
moves.
Right on. Okay. What are these neat moves looking like?
So the whole point is to be able for Moraug to just appear and get a few attacks in with a big team and just do so much damage all at once. Obviously, we need haste for this. And the first few cards here I've included are some great haste enablers.
Yeah, this one's cool. This one is the my current favorite haste enabler because it goes in any kind of deck. And that would be Crashing Drawbridge. 2 mana for the artifact creature, Wall with Defender. It's an 0/4. And you tap it, and creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. Simple stuff. Next, we also have Tuk Tuk Rubble Fort. 2 and a red for an 0/3, another wall, another defender. This one has reach. Creatures you control have haste. And then we also have Ogre Battle Driver. This is a great one. 2 red for the 3/3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. This is just a token deck all-star, that's for sure, and just a great haste enabler.
Yeah, if we have Battle Driver down and we're able to cast Moraug and attack, Moraug will be an 8/6 if we choose to give the +2/+0 to Moraug, who already gets... Oh, no, we don't get to choose. It's just everyone gets haste when they come in. Moraug will land as an 8/6. The first attack becomes a 9/6. And if you get an additional combat step, 10/6, that's a ton of command. That's just a ton of damage in general. That's that's 19 points of damage off of Moraug. That doesn't even account for Ogre Battle Driver attacking. One of the ways we're going to make this happen is Generator Servant. This card is an all-star in this deck. It's 1 and a red for an elemental. It's a 2/1. Comes down on turn 2, real easy. Before it doesn't interfere with our ramping, but we get to tap, sacrifice Generator Servant, add colorless. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste until end of turn. It means Moraug costs 4. So like 4 plus Generator Servant. So if we can, that is a way we are going to allow a little bit of extra wiggle room to like maybe crack a particular land that costs 1 to crack. Maybe we're going to we have the ability to cast 1 more spell while we do that. Generator Servant is a big game in this deck.
Interesting.
Yeah. When we were in the Discord making this deck, so much of it was just talking about the coolest creatures that would be like, these are really good when you have multiple combat steps. We really tried to focus on ones that cost 4 or less because there wasn't much point. I'm sure we could both name a million 6-drops that would be incredible to attack on multiple attack steps. I did include a few, but they don't get to come out before Moraug unless you just wait.
Right.
Turns upon turns. We want to get a nice juicy board, turn 4, turn 5, and then just drop Moraug and be like, here we go. If you spent your first those many turns just ramping, I might kill you. I might be able to just swarm enough to do that.
Wow, I love it.
That's the goal. So let's just swap out here. Let's just talk about characters or creatures, whatever you want to call them, that attack exceedingly well in multiple turns. They're mostly pretty early. Captain Lannery Storm leading the charge. 2 and a red, human pirate with haste, 2/2. And whenever she attacks, you make a treasure token. And whenever you sack a treasure, Captain Lannery Storm gets +1/+0. Using the treasures to cast Moraug already pumps up Lannery Storm. Multiple attacks means you get more treasures, and you can pump her up even more by sacking them to cast instants or who knows what else. Excellent creature.
Oh yeah. This ramp attacking in a mono red deck, really good. Next we also have Taurian Mauler, just a commander staple, a true classic. 2 and a red, the 2/2 shapeshifter with changeling, meaning it's every creature type, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, you can put a +1/+1 counter on Taurian Mauler. Gets massive so quick and just gets boosted by the Moraug attacks. This is just it. I don't believe I've ever not seen Taurian Mauler be a problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it sits there until it's a problem, and then people are like, okay, well, I gotta deal with it.
Yes.
No one cares about it when it's a 3/3 or a 4/4, but then once it's an 8/8, 9/9, that's when people start looking at it.
Yes. We're also running Cranko Tin Street Kingpin, 2 and a red. Goblin that's a 1/2. Whenever Cranko attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it, then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Cranko's power. If we have the Rubble Fort or Crashing Drawbridge or Ogre Battle Driver, all of those tokens have haste. Obviously, we're in our combat step, but if we've got Moraug, we're going to get an additional combat step. Cranko's already got the +1 boost from Moraug, +1 from his own counter. That's 3 goblins on the first attack minimum. And all those, and then we're just going to attack with more and more goblins. Like I said, if there's a board that's at all empty or kind of empty, like you could end that person's game right there. Like it's possible.
Cranko and Moraug seem to be quite good friends.
Yeah.
Here. We're also running Loyal Apprentice, 1 and a red for the 2/1 with haste. The human artificer that has lieutenant, and it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, very important here, if you control your commander, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying, and this gives it haste until end of turn. So this is a really good friend of Moraug. Like Loyal Apprentice giving you an extra Thopter on every extra combat, and like just giving them haste. This is perfect.
And don't forget that Thopter is allowed to attack. It doesn't get created tapped and attacking. So it does get the +1 from Moraug. So Loyal Apprentice is on the ground as a 3/1. The Thopter's in the air as a 2/1. And if you don't kill the apprentice on my next combat, I'm going to get another Thopter. And then the old Thopter is a 3/1 now. The new Thopter is a 2/1. It gets out of hand pretty quick.
Out of hand. Yeah, I can see. Holy.
What else gets out of hand? How about Tectonic Giant? 2 red, 3/4. Whenever Tectonic Giant attacks or becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, but we're interested in the attacks. Whenever this attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent, or you get to exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one until the end of your next turn. You can play that card. I'm probably going to do 3 to each opponent, just like over and like for multiple turns, like multiple combat steps.
That's the type of deck this is. We're gonna pick the damage.
Yeah.
On this one, that's wild.
Yeah.
This one's brutal. Hellrider, 2 red for the 3/3 devil with haste. Whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. Oh man, numerous attacks. This is just basically just adding that unblockable +1/+0 to all of the creatures, right? Like, unreal.
Yeah, and then we've got a little piece of equipment too, like or an artifact, Untethered Express. I think this one's pretty good. It's 4 mana for a vehicle with trample. And whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It accrues for 1. So I'm sure we can find a power off of something on the board where it's better. It's like, it's probably better for me to untap or to tap it and then crew Untethered Express, get in there once. Then for my next combat phase, I untap all creatures I control. So the creature that crewed it is now untapped for future combat steps. Yeah. So you just get in there a ton. All of the things,
like crewing up Untethered Express with Hellrider is wild, right?
Oh yeah,
because you don't have to put Hellrider in danger, but you still get the +1 or the 1 damage off of everything.
Yeah.
And then if you did want to attack even later, you can. Wow.
I mean, I'm probably going to use Loyal Apprentice to crew Untethered Express and just get in with the Thopters and the Untethered Express.
Same thing. It lets you keep it out of harm's way while still attacking, essentially.
Yeah. Really, I mean, this is just it's been a blast to play out. It's very dependent on your hand and like getting a pretty lucky draw off the top. If you don't, but this deck, there's plenty of 2, 3, and 4 drops that attack well especially for multiples, and a little bit of ramp, a couple of rocks here or there. You save your lands. All of these things we've mentioned have been like 4 or cheaper. So they all come down before Moraug, and then we just go ham with them. That's the main game plan. But there is a world where maybe we cast Moraug, and we just the way it played out, we don't get to do the whole shenanigans. But if we get to untap, we get even more explosive shenanigans. Your opponents should not let you untap with Moraug, and then get all your mana back. But if they do, let's talk about a few pieces that they are already good, but they really, really shine if you get to untap and have extra mana to play with. I'm going to lead off with Alpine Guide. 2 and a red for a snow creature, a human scout, 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, you may search for a mountain, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Wow. It attacks each combat if able, and when it leaves the battlefield, sacrifice a mountain. I don't care about that at this point. I don't care about that. But the Alpine Guide hitting the table puts a mountain into play. this is not a land drop. So like I get to play my mountain, additional combat phase. I can, I have to also cast Alpine Guide and stack 2. I don't get another main phase. So I have to cast my Alpine Guide, play my mountain, and I've got 2 combat steps just waiting to happen, just in the queue.
Wow. We also have Burnished Heart. Lil Bernie, 3 mana artifact creature elk. The 2/2 that says pay 3, sack it, and search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put them on to the battlefield tapped. A budget player's ramp card, a staple for budget players. I know there's a lot of people who don't love this as a ramp card, but I found it to be quite an all-star, and obviously we're loving it in this deck. This is going to be 2 additional combat phases.
2 additional, and then if you have your land drop 3, like 2 in addition to it. This is a tough one because I've been testing some games and I have Burnished Heart out, and I'm just like, I should probably crack it to make sure I have enough to cast Moraug. But if I get lucky and draw a land, maybe I can. Maybe I don't need to crack Burnished Heart just yet.
I come across this in my Angry Omnath deck a lot, where I'm like on turn, like I've got 6 lands and he costs 8, I think. Anyways, whatever it is, it's like you're 2 away from it, and you're like, okay, do I cast the ramp spell? Because I'll find another. Like I've got a land here. Like what do I do? And it's like, just play usually it's like just play the ramp spell because they're going to remove your commander. You're going to need to then get 2 more back. So. I feel like in those times you gotta, if you get the ramp before your commander's out, play the ramp. I think that's generally speaking what you're supposed to do.
I'm happy to have this. It's a 6 mana play, 3 to cast Burnished Heart, 3 to activate. But like I'll pay 6 mana to get 3 combat steps with that regular land. That seems fair to me.
Totally.
This is one. Where did this come from? This is from a Commander 2013, Surveyor's Scope. It's a 2 mana artifact. Tap to exile it. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of players who control at least 2 more lands than you. Put those cards onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. That's I can't imagine this won't get us at least 1. And we just have to tap it to do that. So I'm happy. Like I pay no mana for it, and even if I can just get 1 mountain, that seems fine. That's going to do what I want it to do. If I can get 2 or 3, beautiful.
Well, the amazing thing is you don't really like this. This is easier to get than it looks because there's always going to be one player ramping out of control. And let's just say that there isn't like another player just playing consistent land drops. Like all you have to do to make this worth it is to just hold back a land on a turn where you would normally play one, or like when they do get their ramp, you just same thing. You just wait. Like you could like holding back 1 so that you know you're going to get 2. That evens out, right? So like, it's as if you played the land anyways. So you might as well like I don't know, on like 3, just not play the land because no, this guy's going to play a land, and this guy, like, you could even potentially get 3 that way if you hold back a land.
Right. It's because rather than play it now, I'm going to let you get ahead. Surveyor's Scope will now replace that land I held back on, but now that land's in my hand and I get to play it as my normal land drop.
Yes, exactly. So you could potentially get like 4 landfall triggers if you were in a position where people are consistently hitting land drops and you just hold back 1 land 1 turn.
Well, and then, but like, let's also, like, I know we're kind of budget players, so we don't deal with this very often, but like, if I'm allowed to like crack my Terramorphic Expanse, and while the trigger's on the stack but the land is not out, I'm allowed to crack Surveyor's Scope and it counts less lands.
Wow, yes.
So I'm like, sure, fine. Colony Gem, I've returned 2 mountains to my hand. For sure I'm behind on lands in that case.
See, that's great. Yeah, if you got the slow fetch and like the other fetches, just crack them both. Play with the Surveyor Scope thing.
Crack them, triggers on the stack.
Man, this card's better than I thought. Like even just in a normal deck, that's pretty good.
Yeah. If you're not green,
you
should probably rerunning Surveyor Scope.
if you're white, you 100% should be running this card. I
Oh,
think.
the fact that this is a quarter is ludicrous. Like this should be. Why isn't it more expensive?
You know why? Because it sounds like a guy's got to have 2 more lands than me. So it's like you're like, okay, yeah, maybe the green blue player is going to have that, but then you're like, but the red black player might not, and then the Esper guy might not. It's like, so like the odds are still a little risky. Like you're only getting 1 land off of this, but even getting 1 land off of this is pretty good.
That's
right.
Like it's an artifact.
2 mana to just go up 1. That's
rampant growth.
Yeah, that's rampant growth. That's a fine card.
Yeah, rampant growth is great.
Like it's just that the thing is, I guess, is that you just can't be doing any other ramping. So again, green does not want this card because if you've ramped, or if you have any other ramp cards in your hand, like they're useless until you like you have to do this before it, which I don't think makes a ton of sense. So definitely this is not for green. But yeah, I mean, have we stumbled upon this like a secretly really amazing card? Is there something we're missing?
Well, okay. I don't know, but keep this in mind and let's continue because this card will work very well with another card we're going to talk to like in 4 or 5 cards. We got one more card in this chunk of the show, and that's Insult to Injury. If we have Moraug and we've untapped, I can cast Insult for 2 and a red. It's a sorcery. Damage can't be prevented this turn, and if I get to do damage, I deal double damage instead. There's an Aftermath of Injury where I get to deal 2 damage to any target or to target creature and 2 to that to a target player. That I'm not that interested in that. I'm mostly interested in just getting double damage from my humongous attack. Maybe I'll kill 2 players this turn. Who knows?
Right. Nice. Cool. Well, what do we do? What do you do when it's like gates are open? You know what I mean? Like we're just going at them.
Yeah, so ideally we have an open player and like we can attack unobstructed, or mostly open. If in case we don't, we're running Cosmotronic Wave just in case. It's 3 and a red sorcery. Cosmotronic Wave deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Creatures your opponents control can't block this turn. So this clears the way metaphorically. But like if you can just do the math and be like, oh, I have 4 mana. I have enough to just kill this player. Mm-hmm. I can ignore their blockers. Great. Cosmotronic Wave, if you played with it during the Guilds of Ravnica draft, that's when I learned this. The creatures don't have to be there when you cast this. It doesn't say like right. The way it's worded, even if your opponents make creatures after you've cast it, they still can't block. They're
2 separate things. Deals damage, and then it's not like it doesn't say like if it does or if they're damaged by this or anything like that. It's just that happens, and also they can nothing your opponents have can block this turn no matter what.
So this next card, Andy, I would like you to think of this next card with context of Surveyor's Scope.
Yeah,
let's say you got Surveyor's Scope, but like you didn't get to crack it in time. It came up late in your deck, and right now there is nobody with 2 more lands than you somehow.
Somehow we're leading. Well, you know what? Honestly, it is possible with this deck, right? Like you've got ramp in here. We've got ways. We're looking to do landfall triggers, so it is very possible that we are right up there with everyone else when it comes to lands on the battlefield. Well, Firecat Blitz is a great card to have when that happens because it's an X red. It's a sorcery, and it says create X 1/1 red elemental cat creature tokens with haste. And then you exile them at the beginning of the next end step. But it also has flashback for red, and sacrifice X mountains. So we can flash it back by sacrificing a bunch of mountains. So it's like, oh, we all have 8 lands on the battlefield or like whatever. I'm somehow not too behind. At least sacrifice 2 of them. And now I've got 3 landfall triggers that have happened or something, right? Like if it's very easy to manipulate the situation so that using this flashback cost, you get a bunch of Firecats out there, and you're going to hit even more land drops from the Surveyor Scope. Wild.
Like, just to give you some context here. So Firecat Blitz is red X, and it flashes back for red and sacrificing mountains. So let's say I have 10 mana between my mana rocks and all my mountains. Let's say I have 6 mountains and a couple of mana rocks, so I'm at 10 mana. I'm gonna I'm gonna spend X equals 6. I'm gonna spend 8 on the front half. I have 2 red left over. So now I've made 6 cats. Now I'm going to pay my remaining 2 red and sacrifice all of my mountains. I'm going to go down to 0 mountains for this play because how many lands did I say? 6 lands. So now I've got 12 cats. On their first attack, they attack as 2 ones. And if they get to attack again, they attack as 3 ones and then 4 ones. That's when I'm cracking Explorer's Scope. So how many opponents are left? I'm going to get that many extra combat steps because I definitely have less lands. Wow. So like I don't care if 4 of them die against player 1 because they're all going to go at the next player. That's including the other stuff that I have on my board. Like this is not the only play I'm making.
Right. I mean, that certainly sacking all of your lands always a risky play. So just make sure we love it. Yeah, just make sure you there's no counter magic floating around. If they counter the flashback, it could be a problem.
Yes.
Although you will still get the sacrifice the lands and get the cats from the first play. So actually that might be enough. So
yeah,
it's kind of good. Yeah. And what's this next one here?
Ooh, this is I never saw this one before. I was looking up enchantments that involved like attacking. And so here's a weird one. It's called Invasion Plans. 2 and a red for an enchantment. Each creature blocks. So I'll read the oracle text. All creatures block each combat if able. The attacking player chooses how each creature blocks each combat. So it's kind of like everyone has ultimate lure. Mm-hmm. I get to be like, hey, all of your entire board has to block, but I choose how. Everybody's blocking 1 fire cat. Yeah. And then everyone else gets through.
And you're dead. Goodbye.
Yeah.
This is...
Oh, and for my extra combat steps, now we're all coming to you. Your whole team blocks this fire cat.
Yeah, this card is just boom, you're dead. Like it's over.
Yeah.
If you have a board and you drop this, because it works both ways, right? It's all players. So if they somehow survive and they get to attack you, well, all of a sudden they decide how you block.
That's the beauty of this card, because you can go after the person with the biggest board and kill them. And so ideally, the person with the second biggest board, hopefully their board is not geared to kill you in one shot. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter that you've left them alive for now. You're going to come back at them the next time.
And even still, it's like if you, in that scenario, they have to attack you. They can't hold stuff back for their next attack either way. They can't.
Well, it doesn't force attacks. It just forces blocks.
It just forces blocks. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was gonna say either way, it's kind of the same thing, anyways, because they like leaving back blocks doesn't do anything. You get to decide the blocking, so you might as well attack anyways.
You might as well.
Otherwise, you're going to lose one of your creatures, right? Like.
Yes, you will absolutely.
They're probably well. I guess depends on how big your stuff is, but they're probably going to lose whatever one of their creatures at least.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Like you can engineer it where it's like, okay, I could have all of your team block a fire cat, which I will do, but I will also have your key utility creature block my big creature because I need that creature to die. Yeah, and you'll still get to do all the other stuff with the combat, deciding the damage and everything, right? So yeah.
Ooh, that's a cool card. That's a very cool card.
Yeah, very cool. I forgot to input the Discord helpers, but I saved them in a text file, so I can name them here. So thank you to Pips Don't Lie, Jamon, Chiefy, Brave, Sir Robin, Sean, not me, the other Sean, Beppo, Dino Pirate, Clockwork 12, Mattisman, Jordan W8, Dylan PH, Prophet of Aries, Valea, Papadio, Brian L. also goes by Zalikis, I think. I wrote that in brackets. I don't know why I wrote that. You know why? Because I didn't want to read their last name, but I just did. Sorry. And Lulwhat.
There you go.
And maybe another that I forgot, as usual. If I forgot you, I'll get you next time.
I hope you have gotten the people that you've forgotten every time. I hope I've always gotten them as well.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Well, I feel like now that we've mentioned our Discord helpers, that it certainly is time for the budget report. All right, so where are we looking when it comes to this Moraug deck? I know Moraug himself is a little bit pricey. It's getting up there a little bit.
Yeah, Moraug is a $6-7. It's the mythic.
That's not too bad, actually.
It's not too bad. $6-7 is not too bad. I don't mind that. You can get this TCG player low for under $50, $49.40,
great.
and I know for a fact that we can cut that down even farther. There's a couple of pricey cards in the deck currently. The priciest card right now is Neheb the Eternal. You remember Neheb. Did I forget to put that in the notes?
Yeah,
I think I did.
But that's okay.
So Neheb the Eternal, this is the 3 red zombie minotaur warrior with afflict 3. Whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses life. Very interesting with invasion plans. We can... Does that count for each creature that blocks?
Whenever it becomes blocked. So
so
it just is blocked. Yeah.
Just once. Okay, so you can't do that. But anyway, at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, add red to your mana pool for each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn. So we're going to attack the first volley. We're going to go to our post-combat main phase, get a ton of mana, and now we're going to do all of the shenanigans that we were going to do if we get to untap. We will not get another post-combat main phase, right? So we don't get to do this over and over and over, but we probably don't need to.
Wow. Yeah, that's really that works really well.
And Neheb's $12.
Yeah, wow, that really got up there. I'm pretty sure I grabbed one of these guys before. You always know you have to when you see such a unique ability like this. That's one indicator that you need to pick it up while it's kind of this like moderate price when it first comes out.
This is Moraug. Moraug will be in a similar
100%.
vein.
Yeah. Oh, Moraug's going to be very expensive. So grab Moraugs now for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Also, we've got another card in here, right?
Yes.
Getting up there. It's a Final Fortune. It's a red for an instant. This is from 7th edition. Take an extra turn after this one. At the end of that turn, you lose the game.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Just in case we're just like, ooh, like you've left me the window. Like you've left me a window. You've tapped out. I'm like a turn away from casting Moraug and winning this game. Okay, Final Fortune. I'm going to drop my Final Fortune. Get my Moraug out, do multiple attacks. If you can get Moraug out that turn and get another turn with multiple attack phases, easy way to seal the game if you have that window. This card, and I love a good challenge. If your opponents figure out a way out of this and you lose the game because you didn't win, I don't mind that. If they like, that's an exciting moment.
Yeah, that is an exciting moment. You know, you're risking it all with this card, but it's an exciting play.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah. That's like a $6 card, but I think it's worth it. So
I think I have one of these. I think I have like a weird old like white bordered one of these that are where I was like, yeah, right. You know, looked at it, was just like, no way.
Yeah. Well, there's a way.
Well, there is a way. Yeah, for sure.
I hinted earlier that like this is the budget version.
Mm-hmm.
You can get this for $50. That's very budget. This seems like it's a lot of fun. You can spend hundreds on this.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to like the basics. It's true in Magic, the most expensive cards just do the most basic things.
Yeah.
For example, Ruby Medallion is up to $15. It's not in the deck, but if you have the money, it's a 2-mana artifact that makes all red spells cost 1 less for you. Great.
$15? Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Well, 16 if you round, right? Like, you know.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Like it's red ramp. Like we might not be casting more than 1 spell a turn, but even if we're casting 1 spell a turn, it's like we've ramped by 1 for all of those. It brings Moraug down 1 turn earlier. If we have Generator Servant, if we can give that haste and just cast Moraug very early, like this can be a very important piece to doing a ton early. Mm-hmm. It just speeds up your game, right? On that note, like a lot of the tension in this deck comes from the fact that you just can't play tons of lands every turn, and something like those like a terramorphic expanse, it just sits there not doing anything for you. But then when you tap it and get an extra land, it's tapped and you can't use that mana. It never did anything. Well, that's why people run the fetches, right? Like regular fetches. Arid Mesa is $35 alone. Like this deck would run all our fetches, right? If it's got red in it, we would run it.
Yeah.
But we can't afford it. Like that's very expensive.
That's very expensive. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the slow fetches actually are better even in this deck, right? Because the slow fetches come into play tapped, which is fine, but at least then they can sit around if you don't need the mana right away. And those lands that you get from the slow fetches are like from the point where they untap, the slow fetches are better than these fetches because they don't cost a life. Still comes into play untapped, right? So that's nice.
Yeah. We could just get more. There's only 2 slow fetches, but there's 5 regular fetches. So that, I mean, we would run those. I didn't put in Chromatic Lantern. It's 3 mana for an artifact that says all your lands can tap for 1 mana of any color. This turns on your Evolving Wilds, so you get to use it before you crack it. So I can play an Evolving Wilds on turn 1 and then just keep using it as a mountain until it's time to crack it, and then all these lands just start cracking for mana. So they're not dead before that. But again, Chromatic Lantern's like almost $10, so like, you know, how important is that extra little edge for you?
Yeah, in a monocolored deck too, that's a pretty small edge, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, this is another commander staple though, like you're saying, like just does simple things like fixing your mana forever and ramping it at the same time. So
yeah,
cool. Well, I mean, I love the look of this deck. I love that there's a lot of other decks that would have this kind of contained within them. Like,
yeah,
I grabbed a Moraug for my Angry Omnath deck because we're dropping lands. We got a bunch of creatures out. Obviously, this is going to be a great card in this deck. But just blow it up and like take Moraug and just blow up the parts that use it, and it's its own deck completely. It's amazing. It's so fun and it's fast, but I don't know. It's the kind of aggressive deck I feel like I can get behind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean that's pretty much everything. Actually, I've got an invitation here.
Oh.
We are invited to the Agric Awards.
Ooh, yes. Do we get to present something?
Looks like we do. We're going to get a swag bag. We're going to present something, so we got to get in our tux and we got to go.
Okay, great. Okay, I've got my tux with me.
Here we go. Let's do it. Oh, great. Wonderful to be here, everyone. Wonderful to be here at the Agric Awards. Thank you all for coming. Wonderful night.
It is an honor to celebrate the greatness of Magic cards.
The finest cards that Sean decided to put in this particular deck are all here tonight. That's right, we are only giving out awards to cards in this deck, which is why there's one of these awards every week.
Yes. Good to see you. Thank you for coming to the award show, Laura Dern. Lovely to see you.
Dern. It's a great actress. Just,
yes.
I love Jurassic Park.
Yes.
I still haven't seen that divorce movie, though.
I don't know what one you're talking about.
The one, what's it called? The Marriage? No. The Divorce? Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver.
Oh, I've seen ads. I don't know, like a movie about divorce doesn't hook me.
No, you know what? It sounds quite sad. But thanks everyone for coming, regardless, even though you have to sit next to Laura Dern, who was in that sad movie. Sean, why don't we have one award to give out tonight, and I'll let you do the honors.
This award, sponsored by Swarovski Crystals, for best costume is Frontier Warmonger.
Oh, wow.
Look at those Swarovski crystals on Frontier Warmonger's outfit. We all know Frontier Warmonger, 3 in a red, human warrior, 4/4. Whenever one or more creatures attack, one of your opponents or a planeswalker they control, those creatures gain menace until end of turn.
Beautiful coloring on this card. Wonderful crystals, and thank you to the fine folks at Swarovski for getting Frontier Warmonger hooked up.
Thank you. Remember, when you need to get hooked up, turn to Swarovski.
If you're thinking to yourself, hey, I don't have any crystals, and I've got an important meeting tonight, and I need to be hooked up, check out Swarovski crystals.
Yes. For all your crystal needs, whether it be a necklace or half a rock that looks like a rock on the outside, but when you look at it, the inside is all crystals, turn to Swarovski.
I believe that's called a geode.
Geode, dude.
Geode, dude. Okay, great. Having a lot of fun here tonight, and we hope you have as well listening. Thanks everyone for being here this week, and we will see you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCG Player affiliate link below.
That helps us out too, and for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or two.
See you later.
Bye.